Hey, friends, and Happy New Year, and welcome to a new year of the 911 Strong podcast. On this episode of the 911 Strong podcast, we have the man himself, the American Sheriff, Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb. We spent the day with the sheriff and had a great candid conversation that we couldn't pack into one episode, so we broke it up into two great episodes. Episode 1 of our interview with Sheriff Lamb starts right now.
Station to all units.
Prepare to copy.
You're listening to the 911 Strong podcast.
Don't act like I never told you.
With Aram and Kristen, bringing you stimulating discussion.
No, I like the sound of that.
An entertaining conversation.
And now, here's Kristen and Aram.
This is 21st century policing. This is taking out-of-the-box ideas and out-of-the-box leaders who embrace traditional American values, American family values, and a service-oriented approach to not only the community, but service to the people who do this job day in and day out. And there's no one else that embodies this approach better than the American Sheriff himself, Sheriff Mark Lamb from the Pinal County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff, thanks for coming and joining us on our podcast.
I appreciate the intro, man.
Hey,
I mean, thank you.
He does good with that, huh?
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of good ideas, but one of the best ideas I ever came up with was to write down my thoughts as they come. And you were giving a presentation just now. We saw you on stage, and you said a lot of profound things that you don't typically hear from a leader. So as you were talking, these were the thoughts that were on my heart and my mind, and I wrote them down. I said, this is going to be a great intro, because I didn't have one prepared. I mean, this is a man that doesn't need an introduction. So. But for those of you guys listening, we're at the Palm Springs Police Department. We actually took over Sergeant Matt Beard's office of the training division.
We appreciate it. Thank
Absolutely,
you.
yeah. And we're at the Law Enforcement Social Media Conference. It's the first annual conference of its kind, and it's kind of progressive. And that leads us to our conversation here with Sheriff Mark Lamb, who I call you progressive because you're outside the box thinking, but you're really traditional when it comes to family values,
Absolutely.
Your faith, and law enforcement as a whole. You believe in doing police work, which is rare these days, especially when we have leaders out there that are kind of handcuffed by politicians. And even though you're a politician yourself, you don't seem to answer to anybody but the people you serve. And that's what I admire about you.
And there's beauty and power in that.
Absolutely. So, I was talking to your lovely wife out there, Janelle, who we have to have on the podcast one day.
I
She's
love
great.
her.
Yeah. She's awesome.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
But she was saying that when you finally decided that you were going to make this run for sheriff, that you, from the get-go, embraced the whole social media idea.
I did. I was a gang and drug detective at an Indian reservation where I worked, and I had zero social media, no footprint on social media. And so one day I just was standing there, and I told the guys on my squad, I said, you know what, man, I'm going to run for sheriff. It wasn't enough to just complain about where I thought law enforcement in the country was heading. I wanted to be part of the solution. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to run for sheriff. And they thought I was crazy. And they were probably right. But I decided to run for sheriff. And within about 6 months, I moved on to the county. And so I could see then that social media was the future of politics, of a lot of things. And it was already up and going. It's just, I could see that if you were going to have an impact, it had to be on social media.
Yeah.
I had to start a business to offset the paid cut that I took going to the county. I started a pest control business, so I used the social media, kind of build that as well. And I've just kind of learned on the go. I'm just a trial and error. I'm sure you have an awesome social media, and you probably do the same thing as me. You post something, see if it works, and then you kind of get a feel for how you craft your message after that. But I do. I believe wholeheartedly, and I've taken that same belief as a sheriff into how we run our organization, how we brand it, how we send our message out. And I think it's a real opportunity that a lot of agencies are missing, and a lot of police officers are missing.
What do you think that? I know you talk to a lot of chiefs and sheriffs out there, and I know you understand when I say that so many leaders are resistant to social media. There was a stigma with social media early on with cops, and some agencies even told their cops they couldn't be on social media. What do you think about chiefs and sheriffs embracing social media? Do you think it's going to happen, so you might as well start now? Or do you think it's not for every agency?
No, I think it's already happened. And I think there's a lot of agencies that are behind the curve that have not embraced it. Do I think that every chief and sheriff needs to be in front of the camera? Nah, I mean, but
Okay.
you need to understand the power of social media. And I do think that you do have to get yourself out there. The people elected you, or the mayor or the city council put you in the position of the chief. I think there's a responsibility that goes with it. And some get it, some don't. But a lot of them, I think, they really fight it because they don't want to be vulnerable. As cops, we don't want to show emotions, and we don't want to be vulnerable. And if you're going to get on social media and have success, vulnerability is a big part of it. And I think that's one of the biggest things for these guys to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, being around cops, we put up a front sometimes. We want to be this tough guy. As a matter of fact, we kicked off the event today as people were rolling in. You could tell people wanted to say hi to each other, but they do this sizing up almost of each other. And you have this ability to be as confident as you are, but still be very approachable. Some would call it very humble, but confident. I mean, just on the way up into this office from the main stage that we're at, you said hi to about 10 different people coming in. Do you think that's what people why people are endearing to you so much? Or do you think your vulnerability makes you so approachable?
Yeah, I think so. And I've just embraced who I am. I mean, look, Kristen doesn't have this problem because she's gorgeous, but we get up in the morning and we look at ourselves in the mirror and you say, we do the same thing. You point out your flaws. I have to be honest with you. I've gotten over a lot of that. I've had to put myself out there, and so much of being a leader and influencing people is being able to draw those people in as well. And so I can show up at an event now, and I understand that most people do want to interact.
Yeah.
And they just need somebody that will just be willing to draw them in. And so I try to light up a room when I come in. I try to let my smile, the way I carry myself, and I try to embrace people and pull them in so that they feel comfortable. And I think that's really where the work is done, is once you break through those barriers, then we can now get to work. So I know it sounds cheesy and progressive and corny, but honestly, that's truly what it is. And I think leaders, once you embrace who you are, your flaws and everything, everything's what God gave you. And so once you embrace that and understand who you are, I think it gives you that power to get over that vulnerability and just go out and be you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think it's the realness we embrace too, because you just walked in and you're real and humble, and just, you could tell the vibe just came off of you like that, and it's getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it's so hard for us as law enforcement to do something like that. It's so, we always have our walls up, and we're not always like breaking down with strangers in the room and decide, we're just going to go and talk to people and introduce ourselves because we're going to be looked at as weird. And it's nice.
Was this always Mark Lamb? I mean, is what we see what we get?
That's probably the most common question that people around me get.
Yeah.
Like, is this really, what is he really like?
Right.
And my guys are like, what you see is exactly who he is.
Right.
Yeah.
I've always been the same. I've always been very socially engaging. I've been fairly confident in who I am. It's always been me. And I treat everybody. I'm no respecter of persons. So I think that the janitor who cleans your office is as important as the chief who's sitting in the office.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that if you take that approach, it's a genuineness. People
it's
see
authentic.
it. It's authentic. I believe that everybody is a son and daughter of God, and everybody has a certain they all have value and importance in this world. And so who am I to demean somebody or treat somebody different because of their position or whatever? And so it's helped me in law enforcement because I treat people a different way than most cops may treat them. And I think it's been successful for me, but it is who I am. I really, if you catch me, I'm always like this. So.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the first time we ever met in person, Kristen and I met you at SHOT Show, and we were kind of intimidated. We met you and Matt, your chief deputy there, and you guys were just so approachable right off the get-go. I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are my people, super genuine. But I want to get back to something that you touched on, because I don't want to ignore it. It's too big for that. You mentioned your faith. Has that always been part of your life, or did you come about faith later on in life, or...
I was grown up. I'm devout LDS Mormon, so we grew up really every week at church with a deep love for God, Jesus Christ, for this country.
Right.
And so it's who I am. It's what's built me, so I don't run from it.
Right.
Even when I was campaigning, I put that I was pro-life. And somebody came up to me and they said, well, what does that have to do with being a sheriff?
Right.
And I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. It doesn't, because I'm not legislating. But I think it's important that you, as a voter, understand who I am as a man. And this is who I am. And this is part of me. So my faith is a part of me. I share scriptures when I speak, and I don't care where I'm speaking at. I speak openly about my faith. I think it's something that people want. They're a little nervous to embrace it, but it is who I am, and so I'm not afraid to speak about it.
Yeah. It's important to have these conversations, and if you're not willing to initiate them, they're not going to initiate it, so the conversations will never happen. So having that dialogue with your constituents and people that are going to support you throughout your career is super important, because if I'm voting for someone, I want to know who the person is.
And if somebody takes offense to my faith, then honestly, really doesn't hurt me at all. When you talk about offense, there's a great quote that says, he who takes offense when no offense was intended is a fool. And he who takes offense when offense was intended is an even greater fool. And that's the truth. Like, we ought to stop being so sensitive and taking offense because of the way you want to live your life or your decisions. That's you. Like, I let you do that. And if I don't like it, then I just ignore it.
Yeah, we can agree to disagree.
We have this want and desire as Americans now to be like, I want you to know that I don't like what you do, and I want you to change and think like me. And that is counterproductive to a successful society, and it's not who we are. We're all individuals, so
Yeah.
There are very few people that decide they want to go out there and not only run for elected office, but do so in a capacity where you're running a large organization, law enforcement organization like yourself. That's a big decision in of itself. Did you always know that you wanted to be one of the most recognizable law enforcement officers in the country, or did it just happen?
It kind of just happened. Look, I believe if you're going to do something, be the best you can at it.
Okay.
So that's my approach to everything. People think, well, you're just trying to be this or that. No, I'm just trying to be the best me that I can be. So if I'm a rookie, I'm going to be the best rookie. If I'm an officer, I'm going to be the best officer. If I'm a detective, I'm going to be the best officer. It doesn't mean I'm trying to be better than you or you.
Competitive, just the best version of you.
I am a little competitive.
Oh, okay.
There is
all
some
right,
of that.
so
I'm
there's
not
some
going to
honesty
lie.
there.
But the majority of it is just competitive with me, trying to be the best. So when I decided to be sheriff, I just made that decision. Then I had to make that was in 2011. I actually ran in end of 2015, 2016. So there was a lot of hard decisions and sacrifices that went in to get you to that point. And then in 2015, at the end of the September, we had to make a decision. So I called my wife and I said, hey, I've been reading things, and she was, and praying about it. And I just was like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to run for sheriff. I had a pretty good, successful business at the time because I had left sheriffing so that I could run for sheriff. Or I'd left police work so I could run for sheriff. So I call her. I say, hey, I don't think I'm going to do it. The next 2 days, I could not shake the feeling. I would wake up in the morning. I couldn't stop thinking about it all day, all night. So I was working in Utah, and I called her, and 2 days later, and I said, screw it, let's do it. And so
it was your calling.
It was just what we felt like I needed to do. Now I've always felt like I could be in a leadership position. I've always been in different leadership positions, but to run for sheriff, like you said, I knew nothing about politics. I knew nothing. So that was an interesting thing.
Maybe that's what made it more appealing, though, too, that you weren't a politician, that you were just a normal, quote-unquote person coming in that wanted to make a change, and that's what the appeal was.
And that's, my wife says it best. She goes, we're normal people trying to do great things. That's all we are. And I think when you do that and you take the opportunities that life presents to you, because most people don't.
Right.
Most people just wait that extra second, like I talked about earlier, or they just are a little bit scared and they miss the golden opportunities. We take them.
Yeah.
We take them, and life has a way of working out for you in the way it's supposed to work out if you take those opportunities.
When the door opens, go for it.
Yeah, you can't hit a home run if you don't swing the bat.
Exactly. I'm a hacking fool. Like when I played baseball I got 3 strikes, so I swing at all the pitches.
You mentioned your wife. When you talked about first wanting to be sheriff, did she say this is another idea or another, just another idea that's not going to happen, or was she supportive right off the bat? Or
inside, she may have said that.
Yeah.
My wife is as loyal and as supportive as they come.
Yeah.
She's an amazing woman, and to be able to do what we do, because let me tell you, when you're in the public eye, it is not easy.
Oh, I bet.
There's this TJ Jakes or JD Jakes or whatever his name is. He's a public speaker, and he says, new levels bring on new devils. And it's true. Like when you try to step outside and do more with life, the devils are out there, and they get harder and harder. And you need a strong woman that's willing to stay in the pocket with you. And she's always been so supportive of everything that I've done. She probably thinks I'm crazy sometimes, but we're doing this together. It's great. Our kids are older now, so we go out and travel together, and it's been good.
That's good. That's good to hear.
Speaking of your kids, you have 5 kids?
Yep. Been married 27 years, 5 kids. Oldest is 25 in the Army. My daughter is 23. She's got our only grandson right now. Then I have a son who's 21, another son who's 20, and another son, or 19, and another son who's 18.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
You guys are soon approaching that time where you guys can just pick up and leave and travel.
Which we do. We've had our kids call us sometimes. They're like, "Hey, where are you guys home?" And they're like, "No, we're in Alabama." Like, so that's
flipped.
happened plenty.
That's awesome.
I have 4 kids, and one of my kids wants to be a police officer. I don't tell them my opinion either way, but the way policing is going today, I don't know if any of your kids want to be police officers, but do you have any concerns for the way the future of law enforcement's headed?
I do. I think that I'm concerned about the rule of law. I think that there is powers that be, or whoever it is, that are undermining the rule of law because it's the strength of America. 2 things that are the strength of America: the family unity and the rule of law. Both of them have been under attack for a long time, and in the last 2 years, we've seen a real attack on the rule of law. And so that's what makes America great. Like, there are other countries with constitutions, albeit those constitutions tell the people what they can and can't do, where our Constitution tells the government what it can and cannot do. And then also there's countries that are democracies. Even though we are a republic, there are countries that are democracies, but they're not America because they don't have the strength of the rule of law. If we lose that, which you guys are experiencing in Los Angeles County, people not being held accountable for crimes, that is dangerous to society, and it puts us at a real difficult position. Now, having said all of that, I was that guy who was like, I don't know if you should do this job, but I've had to take a step back because I'm not doing my profession a service. I'm honest with people. I tell people it's a tough profession, but we need warriors now more than ever. And anybody willing to step up, it's still a great career, and it's still, you can lay your head down at night and know you've done a good thing in your community. But I think it's important to be honest with the challenges they'll face. But I try not to deter people from doing this because we still need them.
Absolutely. As you're talking, it reminds me back to when I first started my career. I was 22 years old, and I had people trying to talk me out of it too because we were coming off of Rodney King and Rampart and all that stuff, and I think people had the idea law enforcement at that time was what's going on right now. And I got to tell you, when I joined, it was great. And then 9/11 happened just 2 years later, and it was even greater. There was nothing people wearing a uniform could do wrong. And we're sort of in that down pendulum swing right now.
Slightly.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
But in your experience, because I've always heard people in your position say this career is like a pendulum. It goes back and forth. Do you see us recovering from this?
Absolutely. I go all over the country, and I think the pendulum is coming back. The question is, how hard is the people that put the pendulum up that side, how hard will they fight to keep it there?
Right.
Yeah.
Do I think there are darker days ahead of us? Yes. But do I think that the pendulum is going to come back? Yes, I do. I really, all it takes is one thing to change how people view law enforcement again. The 9/11s, and you don't like to see those things, but that's how quickly things can change.
Yeah.
It is changing now.
Yeah.
People are upset that that cops and nurses and your heroes are being forced out because of a medical choice that we should all be able to make on our own without anybody mandating us to do that. And you're seeing the shift in the public. Look at, I felt what happened in Virginia with the new governor and Jersey. That's a rebuking of from the people of what is going on in this country.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I think the pendulum is coming back. I think you'll see it even greater next year, and we just have to weather the storm.
Absolutely. Yeah, when you talk about what happened in Virginia. I think
Yeah.
the tipping point there was you started messing with people's kids.
You mess with our kids and things start changing.
Exactly.
Yeah, the kids, the defund the police. And mind you, I'm going to just say this, and then just for food for thought for anybody, just to give you something to think about. The defund the police was a stinker. Like it flopped. They got the vernacular wrong. I even listened to an interview by President Obama where he said, defund the police is bad. We shouldn't have coined it that way. He wasn't saying that he didn't want to defund police. He was just saying that the semantics were wrong. These are not dumb people, although sometimes they seem like it. They put the think tank together and said, here's another way we can defund our police. Let's make them take a vaccine, and by default, we'll defund our police departments by 20-30%.
Yeah.
And so I would just put that out there, that this is just another effort to defund the police. But in the end, it's going to backfire because people want safe communities, and they will continue to push it. But you're right. Messing with people's kids is the camel that broke the straw's back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Another big thing happened last night with Virginia, Minneapolis. The citizens of Minneapolis decided that they were going to keep their police. They voted against defunding, and
You're dismantling their police department.
Right, and I didn't expect that to happen. It seemed to me, from an outsider's view, that it was going to go the other way. In communities like yours, where they support the police and support your position, what do you think happened in Minneapolis to reverse their thinking, where they all of a sudden went from wanting to defund and dismantle the police department to needing them?
Well, I think what you see in Minneapolis are politicians who half of them don't even live there, and their daily lives are not affected by the destruction that occurred last year in Minneapolis. However, the people were.
Yeah.
And the people have seen the byproduct of that defund the police movement in their communities with the increase in violent crime, homicides. So you can try to pretend from your ivory tower all you want that this is a good idea, but the people actually saw it. I was actually a little disappointed that vote wasn't stronger the other way. That was too close. Right. Even though it failed, it was too close. Like, that should have been a 70-30 vote or an 80-20 vote. Yeah. Anybody who thinks that removing police you have no idea what you're talking about, because it'll be destructive for our society. But yeah, I think in the end what it was I think the people saw it for exactly what it was.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, you're sheriff. You appear on TV. You're an author. Your wife's an author, and you came out with a new project for television on a streaming service called the American Sheriff's Network. What was the idea? Like, how did you come up with that? I mean, you're already all over the place, and maybe when did you decide?
As if you didn't have enough things on your plate.
When did you decide I just needed to add another thing on my plate?
So I wanted to do a subscription site, and I thought about doing it off the 4 pillars that I love, which is God, family, freedom, and guns. And so I thought about doing a subscription site and bringing different people, like yourself, and having a place where people could find good content. And then I was sitting in an influencers meeting, and I put it out there to a few influencers, and it just really didn't spark in their eyes. And I was sitting there, literally after I said it, I was sitting there, and all of a sudden it just came to me like, what are you trying to do? Like, just do what you know, which is police work, live PD. So, like, seriously, the next day, the producer from the live PD crew called me out of the blue and said, hey, what's up? And I was like, you know what? It's funny you should call, because I have this thought and I want to run with it. That was in that was in February or March. We were filming by April.
Wow.
Like, that's how fast incredible. We moved. Yeah. And went out, found some people that were willing to finance it and get involved in it. And it's been hard because it's expensive. But, I think that reason we did it was we need to have a voice for law enforcement. Right. Yeah. The men and women that put on the badge every day, that go out and do this job, they deserve to have their story told. And so we thought, let's do it with the sheriffs, the American Sheriff Network. And you can see it at americansheriff.com. Yes. We did a subscription site because at the time they were canceling everything. Oh, yeah. So we were still concerned about being canceled. So we did a subscription site, and then we did sorry, I was distracted. We did a subscription site, I think, and then there's no ads either. Right. So it gave us the opportunity to get that message back out there that had been taken from us when they took live PD and cops off. So we did it for them. I mean, honestly, I think it's important that messaging gets out there.
I think it was a brilliant idea because when the networks removed those programs, it left a lot of people hanging.
Well, because everybody watches that stuff, whether
right.
they like it or not. They always watch some type of cop show. I mean, even as much as Hollywood pretends to hate it, like, look at all the stuff they do. Everything involves cops.
It was like college for the bad guys, and that's how they.
Yeah.
Where do you think they learned you can't do that? You know?
Yeah. But yeah, it's everybody loves watching it. So whether they want to admit it or not. So.
Yeah.
And that's the
big
thing is, from a business level, you see there is a market for it. It's hard. Like, this is a lot harder than I thought. But at the same time, it was also achieving a purpose, which is really showcasing the badge and the people, the humanity of the badge, all of that. Yeah. So real sheriffs, real stories. That's our.
There's no question that you obviously have a service-oriented leadership mentality. I mean, everything you do seems like you do it for the people. There's so many haters out there on social media, especially the bigger you get, the bigger the target on your back. How do you deal with that? I mean, you're a family guy at the core of all this. You have a wife you're responsible to, kids you're responsible to, and now you're under the microscope on a international level. People know who you are. How do you balance? I mean, what kind of advice can you give to people out there that are just balancing regular jobs and regular families, let alone what you're doing?
Great question. I'm glad you brought that up because I have a chapter in my book, and I this is kind of the mantra we've taken. The chapter is those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. And when you understand, when you deal with haters, you have to understand first and foremost, it's not about you, it's about them. They're in their lack of challenging themselves. They're not accomplishing anything in their lives, and so they deflect that frustration and anger, and they try to validate themselves by tearing somebody who is trying to do good down. I will tell you, when I first started this, it was hard. It would affect me for weeks. When I would read 100 comments and 99 could be good, and that one comment would bother me. And then we have a saying that when you want to know what you did wrong in life, run for office. You'll find out whether you did it or you didn't. I was being accused of having an affair on my wife, of running a child sex ring. And when you first hear these things, it bothers you. And it would bother me for weeks at a time. And so what I finally realized was I had to take that power away from them. And it was what I finally realized is they were robbing my family of me. So I was at work, I could put on the game face, and I would get home and I would be despondent, and you're just thinking about other stuff. And so I think the way that we overcame that is those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. And then also realizing it's not you, it's them. And just keep pushing forward. New levels bring on new devils. I mean, it is not designed to be easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And so I have a chapter in there called Fame Without Fortune, because people think just because I'm on TV, I'm rich. I'm not. I live paycheck to paycheck, and but I'm passionate about America. I'm passionate about God, family, freedom, and this profession. And so that's why I do the things I do, but it has not been easy. And if you read in my book, and if you want, I'll explain it, but it's the brown rice theory, and that's helped me a ton too. So
you can't bring it up without explaining.
There's a movie called What the Bleep Do We Know? It was a movie back in like the late 90s. It was about quantum physics and how it relates to our bodies. But in there's a Japanese doctor who does a study on the effects of water and like blessed water and all that, and how it affects humans who are 75% water. So if it affects water, what effect does it have on humans? And so he does a study called the rice experiment, which is you take 3 bowls of cooked rice. You have one that you label, I love you, you're beautiful. The second one you label, I hate you, you're ugly. And the third one you put no label on it. And for 30 days you get up and you have your kids say, hey, I love you, you're beautiful. Pick the other one, I hate you, you're ugly. And the third one you don't touch. No interaction at all. At the end of the 30 days, the first one will be a little bit moldy, but it'll still be kind of white. The second will be moldy and nasty because of what you've projected onto it. But by far, the worst one is the third bowl that you paid no attention to.
Wow.
And if you really think about it in law enforcement, some of the people that we struggle with the most are ones that had no... That's why a lot of women who are in domestic situations, people are going to hate me for this, but a lot of women have a hard time leaving that because even negative attention is better than no attention. And so human nature is we want attention, whether it's negative or positive, we
Right.
crave attention. When you turn that off for somebody, it creates monsters a lot of times. So I did this in my campaign, and I completely ignored my opponent. My opponent kept trying to drag me into these things, and I just pretended like she wasn't even there.
Right.
Yeah.
And it forced her to go make more mistakes and more mistakes. And it was
Yeah.
all because I brown riced her.
Yeah.
And so honestly,
I like it.
I just brown rice the haters. I don't give them any mind. I give them no power.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
all. Never give them your stage.
Right.
Never allow them to get on your stage. And then when you entertain them or you respond to their negativity online, you're giving them the mic and the stage. Don't do it. That's what they want. They want your stage. Don't give it to them.
That's an incredible
Yeah.
lesson.
I like that.
You know, when you're talking about this, I'm envisioning three groups of people. You have the people that will support you no matter what, right? They're diehard Mike Lamb fans. You got the haters, and then you got this group in the middle that's observing how you interact with both. And you're either going to win them and bring them into one side or the other. And that's really profound what you said. So look forward to reading that in
Yeah.
your book. Absolutely.
And there's power in authenticity. We talked about it.
Yeah.
When you're authentic, people gravitate to you. People are hungry for authentic people right now.
Oh,
We
yeah.
get enough of the politicians and all the
Yes.
other people that just aren't authentic. People are hungry for it.
Yeah.
And we are all blessed with gifts and different talents, different fingerprints, different DNA, different irises. We have different talents too. And it's your job in this life to figure out what those are, to
Yeah.
develop them, and to share them with the world.
Right.
And so that's what we do.
That's
Nice.
incredible. Well, there's no doubt
like it.
for anybody, not that we have a lot of people that don't know you, but for anybody who's watching and are meeting you for the first time, there's no doubt in their minds that you come off very authentic. What you see is what you get,
Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
from day one. And I
For
appreciate
good or bad.
well, that's the thing. You take it either
It's-
way. I mean,
yeah.
you know, you're not apologetic for who you are, and a lot of people would say that your stance is aggressive, or you know, I've heard people say that you're unapologetically American, as if that's a bad thing. That's not. We need that
Right.
today.
Right. I had a lady say to me the other day, I spoke at this conference on leadership, as courageous leadership. And I said, which courageous means not deterred by pain or danger. So, but I speak at this conference, and she comes up to me later on. She's like, "Hey, I really appreciated your thing. A lot of it was really good. Some of it, I don't really like. But you are solid in what you believe, and you are passionate about it, and I appreciate that." That's what she said. And I thought, you know, at first you're like, crap, what did I say that she didn't
Yeah.
like? You know,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I appreciate it in the end because, like you said, I'm unapologetic about it.
Yeah.
As we should be. Like,
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
you. Like, why should I have to
Be firm in
apologize
you.
for that?
That sounds like a title for your next book. I'll do the
Yeah, be
preface
you.
on
Why
it.
should I have to apologize for that?
If you do an audio, Aram will do the
I
entry.
like that one. I remember that.
Well, I certainly appreciate you taking it. You're busy. You're actually
I'm
gonna.
good for
Super
whatever
busy.
time. I only looked at my watch because I hit it and I didn't know if it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's
so we're
okay.
good, man. I don't.
Yeah.
Whatever questions you guys have,
Yeah.
how do you love dispatching?
Oh my gosh. Well, I love the job, but I would love to move on. It's been 22 years. I still have 14 more to go. So, but it's good. But like, you know, I talked about earlier, well, before we start recording, I go and teach resiliency and gratitude. So that's kind of my break away from work, but still kind of twisted into it, I guess, and just kind of branching out and doing a different part of it. Because where I'm at, it's kind of a dead end job. There's no movement for me. So I like it. It's good. It works out for my family, and I get to work with my husband and Aram, and so we make it work. We have fun. We do. We have a lot of fun, and we're trying to change morale and do some fun stuff in dispatch and that kind of thing. So it's good. But yeah, I would love to move on too.
Well, we appreciate dispatchers. I think all too often people overlook. I think one of
Yeah.
the most difficult jobs is a dispatcher because you're sending a deputy or an officer somewhere, and you can't see what's going on.
Yeah.
The unknown is far more destructive to us than
Yeah.
than the known, because
Yeah.
that your imagination kicks in, and
Yeah,
and
it's
so
it's hard. It's like how we explain when I teach the classes. It's we hear the crime go down most of the time. You know, we're in the heat of it, in the heat of the moment, and then when they hang up because you guys get there, like somebody like pulled the plug from a horror movie, or they ripped out the last pages of the book, And oftentimes a lot of, dispatchers don't get closure on that. I'm fortunate. I'm at a smaller agency where we get closure. But yeah, it's hard to hear. Like, I sent my husband into a shooting with Aram as well. And then just hearing the stuff that developed over the radio, hearing the gunfire in the radio, hearing my husband yell on the radio, not knowing what happened. Then we hear silence and it just drags out. It's like time slows and stands still. And you're kind of just like, what's going on? Meanwhile, we're still answering phones while I'm still hearing the other end of it in the radio,
Wow.
So it is hard, and we don't get breaks either. We just keep working another 8 hours or however much is left. And, you have to leave the wife hat behind and just keep doing the dispatch work. So there's a lot of things that people don't really consider or think of when it's happening. But I think we're getting our voice out there a little bit more. Aram's helped with the podcast. I do social media. And then there's a couple different shows on, I think, either ABC or Oxygen that are actual real life about dispatchers, not like the Hollywood 911 cred.
Well, thank you for what you do.
Yeah, recently, I think it was this year, early this year, California recognized dispatchers as first responders, which I was surprised.
2021,
yeah, didn't exist. And I think the only other state is Texas currently.
No, there's a couple of different states, yeah.
But California blew me away when they decided
to
go that way, because we all know what California does.
They're not really about all of us.
No, but I'm glad you got the recognition that you deserve. And look, we have a leader of a law enforcement agency that recognizes dispatchers when it wasn't National Dispatcher Week. So more of a testament to what kind of guy you are.
I was even happy you threw him in your donut video.
I
saw that. I was like,
I was a little
see you.
Uncomfortable how slowly she was eating that thing, but
she was.
Yeah,
the crumbs, you can see the crumbs
right?
falling. And
stuff. It was that one moment. It was slow in dispatch.
we put a lot of importance on our dispatchers because they are doing a tough job.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do it. I'm not capable of typing that fast or multitasking the way you guys have to do it. So
I mean, that's another thing too to think about. If and when there are some dispatchers that don't get the shot and get fired, how are you going to fill them? Because I think I could probably safely say over 95% are probably not fully staffed. And then you're going to be firing them too. And there's tons of cops that don't even want to work back there. And so how are you going to get people that are qualified to do all that we do? And we can't even staff it on a normal day-to-day. Yeah. So... Yeah,
you throw cops back there, you'll have cops that get more IAs from being in dispatch than anyone on the street.
It's not as easy as you think.
No, it's true.
Yeah, it's hard.
I guess we could talk about that, and it would that'd be a whole separate episode. But you are at seemingly the pinnacle of your career. Do you have? I mean, what's the next chapter for Mike Lamb? Is this it? Are you going to retire and go off into the sunset, or do you have grandiose plans?
I love being the sheriff, and I think that I'll go where my voice is loud for God, family, and freedom. And I think as sheriff right now, I look on a national level what kind of voice I have. I'm going to stick with it. Like, I love doing this job. I love being a cop. So my plans are really just to continue to be the sheriff. Now, it doesn't pay a ton, so at some point I'd like to go out into the private industry, most likely, and try to make a little bit of money, whether it's consulting or something. People always think that I have desires or say you should run for office, which I actually take as a compliment because I'm already an elected official. So the fact that they don't view me as that, I take as a compliment. But I have no desire to run for Congress. I have no desire to run for Senate. But if you'd have asked me 15 years ago if I was going to be the sheriff, I'd have told you were crazy. Right. And so
never say never.
You just don't know.
Wow, what an amazing first half of this interview. I can't wait for you guys to hear the rest of our interview with Sheriff Mark Lamb. You'll have to tune in next week for you to hear the continuation of our interview, and you don't want to miss it. Well, we know you have your choice to listen to anybody, so we appreciate you inviting us into your homes, into your offices, and on your commute, and allowing us to join your lives, and we appreciate your loyal support. We can't wait for you to continue to listen to us to another great year. 2022 is going to be an awesome year for the 911 Strong podcast. I promise you. We're going to have bigger, better episodes for you to listen to. And we'll catch you next week on the 911 Strong podcast. You've been listening to the 911 Strong podcast with Aram and Kristen. If you like this episode, please check out our other episodes. And don't forget to tell your friends. Find us on Instagram and smash that follow button. Thanks again for listening and for your loyal support. See you next time.